All right, so last time in our exciting video of setting up a mix, we went through and set up these vocals in the music channel. So when I start a mix, I'm gonna take what I have here and we're just going to expound on it. First thing I get into is this limiter. The limiter is gonna be like my overhead for the mix. I'm gonna crank this limiter up until I start seeing gain reduction. uh, 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 Okay, at the moment that I start seeing that gain reduction, I'm gonna pull it back until there isn't gain reduction. Uh, 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 uh. She can hear the passion all in my accent. Uh, Manifesting how we gonna be. And yes, I usually do like to leave it on the closest whole numbers. A lot easier to just understand where I'm at. But as you see, at like 8 dB, 9 dB, I'm still getting half a dB of gain reduction. I'm gonna leave it at 7 dB. It's a whole dB less. I shouldn't get any gain reduction whatsoever. The point of this is so whenever I want to increase something like the kick, the snare, anything that is loud in amplitude, I can only go so far or else this limiter will kick in and I'm going to hear the repercussions of simply just boosting something instead of turning other stuff down. So I have this set up as a failsafe and I'm using kind of a L1 preset, really quick release, 1 millisecond, and a normal, fast, either one of those envelopes. I exit out, I go straight to the bus compressor. Now you're going to either be one of two camps. MBC simply just means master bus compressor. I used to be on the camp of non-MBCs. Now I got an MBC. Do you need one? No, but watch what it does. Uh, Manifesting how we gonna be immaculate. This wave ain't for the average. This wave ain't by. Look, I captured it. Almost master. Now, of course, what I'm using is a preset that I start off with because pretty much I've dialed in these settings for every time a track comes in with hard drums or some type of rhythm, it reacts and responds to the rhythm. And then I tweak it from here. But if you heard the vocals, the mid-range, the top end, all that just kind of jumps forward and the bass kind of gets pushed back a little. And I usually will control that bass with the side chain here, depending on how much I want to bring back in the mix. But it helps give the mix rhythm and liveliness without sacrificing too much of the low end. But that's really all that's happening is the low end is getting pushed back just enough to make the vocals and the mid-range sounds become a little bit more apparent. She can hear the passion all in my accent. Manifesting how we gon' be immaculate. This wave ain't for the average. This wave ain't by. Look, I captured it. Almost mastered it. I can lose some racks and make it back with it. Oh, you tapped in. This wave ain't for the average. This wave ain't by accident. Don't ask me what happened. I passed them. V12 engine like the standard. I passed them. Just passing. Talking extractions. Sexy distractions. Whole lot of money this way. You should come. Get a plate with the rich. Freaky bitch. Say my name. Wear it out. Can we go again? I'ma wear it out. Came for a time, she feel better now. We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah. Too high up, never coming down. So the whole idea was basically to grab some of the sustain on the low end to make sure the kick can bounce, the snares can bounce, and it's not being swallowed up by the bass at the end of the kick hits. So that's the master bus compressor. The next thing I do when I like to start a mix is usually to work on the bass and the sub instruments. The problem is we don't have anything to go in the drum or the bass subs. So we're usually going to leave this alone. And anything that I'm not using, I'll just typically remove out of my master session. So that means removing all of those. And I can get rid of all of these. The next thing I do is I go ahead and add in this SSL saturator. The main reason is to treat this like it's a console style template. And I'm going to activate it anytime I want to change the timbre of a sound. Charlie, to me, is not aggressive enough, but he has a lot of warmth in his bass. I want to kind of invert that. So I'm going to drive him inside the saturator some.
Talking extractions, sexy distractions. Whole lot of money this way. You should come, get a plate with the rich, freaky bitch. Say my name.
It just pops up some of his high frequencies and it removes a little bit of the low frequencies by distorting it somewhat. And then you can hear the plosives out of his voice. Go ahead and add an EQ, take that out.
Talking extractions, sexy distractions.
And normally what I like to do with the EQ is I roll off the vocal at the fundamental. Right before the fundamental, I cut it. And I cut as much as I can. Here's the phase relationship here. And so at this line, I don't want my phase relationship to intersect with the fundamental.
Talking extractions, sexy distractions. Whole lot of money this way. You should come.
So you can just see and hear how much more popped out when we weren't taking out the fundamental or inverting that phase of that fundamental. Okay, so once that is done, I listen, see if there's anything else that's kind of blaring at me.
Talking extractions, sexy distractions. Whole lot of money this way. You should come, get a plate.
Personally, I think the Purple Audio 1176 tile compressor will be a good fit for this because I want to invert that low energy of his vocal and put more energy into the top end. And so when I'm trying to think about whether I should use an EQ or compressor first, I don't have a method to this madness no more. I just hear what needs to be done and I just do. And I have this preset on here that I call Rap Lead. Basically, all I did was take one of my more phenomenal compressor presets from another song and just saved it. That way I can always use this as a starting point when I got to use 1176 and never have to readjust for the level differences, the attack and release and all that stuff. Just saves me time.
We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down.
First thing I listen to see if the bass of his voice is kind of gets smaller. And then you hear more transients, a little bit more transients than you hear sustaining his voice. Perfect. Then I'm going to adjust the attack and release to make sure we're still capturing some of those transients and make sure the release pockets his voice inside of the mix.
We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down. Too high.
So right there, there's too many transients.
We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down.
Right there are no transients really, and you can hear the transients not really hitting your earlobes or becoming fatiguing. When you realize that the transients that are there are not fatiguing anymore, you are eating the transients. And acoustically, you can sometimes feel the harshness of transients. And so I turn my knob to eat the transients until I can't even feel the harshness of it no more. It sounds like the transients are being sucked by something. And then I'm going to dial it back until I feel like, I like these transients. I can hear them, but they're not fatiguing.
We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down. Two eyes up, never slowing down. This spot blocked off.
Cool. Now we're going to do the same thing with the release. I'm going to create a long release and you're going to hear more transients being emphasized. And then I'm going to turn it back until I feel like it's comfortable what it's doing. And if I need a double check, I'll create a really fast release so I can hear the pumping. So the whole idea is to put it at an extreme to where when you dial it back, you can find your balance.
We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down. Two eyes up, never slowing down. This spot blocked off, gotta go around. Yeah, yeah. The girl might go with us. girls like goals to us. I've been overlooked, now I'm overbooked. Do you know how long it took? Seen niggas get dishonorable, had to turn into a carnivore. Don't ask me what happened, I passed them. V12 engine like the standard, I passed them. Just passing, Valentino tantrums. You behind the stanchion, you won't understand them. Digging expansions. She keep telling me set it up, talking extractions. Sexy distractions. Whole lot of money this way. You should come, get a plate with the rich. Freaky bitch, say my name, wear it out. Can we go again? I'ma wear it out. Came for a time, she feel better now. We chose cash instead of clout. Yeah, yeah. Too high up, never coming down.
So you can hear how the vocal kind of flips up top. You know, acoustically it's hitting my forehead area. And then when I bypass it, it sounds like it comes back down to my chin and it's going back and forth as I hit this bypass button. Because that sustain is holding out longer inside of his voice. And so we want some more of that chest. So the Purple Audio does this in spades. So what the Tri-Comp is a multi-band compressor with fixed values where you can adjust the frequency ranges, which is your crossover, and then how much energy that you give this compressor to compress the high and the low. You know, how much is it really going to see this information? But your main knob here is this reduction compressed knob. I like to use this for the doubles because it's really aggressive. It's really hard on voice. And so I can use a fast attack. I can crank up the knee and I'm going to side chain it to the lead vocal right here. And then lastly, I do this over the course of every time I open up the session. If I see level differences, I'll go in and make level adjustments. Just randomly in the middle of the verse or whatever track. That way I'm not so fatigued when I do this all at once. So this doesn't happen in the same mix all the time. So right now I feel like taking out some of that stuff, changing the gains of some of these performances. So that's what I'm going to do. That also includes plosives.
I passed them. V12 engine.
And so there you go. That's like the first 10 to 20 minutes of a mix. Already we have got the mix to a level where we send it out. The listener will be able to hear it at a comfortable volume. We've already added some compression inside of the mix to glue the whole mix together. We've done some work on the lead and the double to go ahead and clean it up because when I want to send this out to whoever got to listen to it, they want to hear some valuable changes to their mix without doing anything to ruin the mix. So at this point, you have already accomplished like 20% of the mix that fast. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you like me, definitely like and subscribe to the channel. Look forward to the next video. All right, ta-tas, people.